on here to kind of break it down and debrief it all. So today I went to a local campus, show up to this white supremacist speaking event, and I thought that I would run it all by y'all, tell you guys kind of what the last 7 hours have looked like for me, what's going on in my life, what's been going on, what went on today, and kind of the public's reaction to it so far. So there's a local campus, it's called CMU, and their president, Mr. John Marshall, basically signed off on this white supremacist named, what was his name? Jared Taylor, to come to the university campus and give a little bit of a speech. When Jared Taylor originally kind of got the go-ahead to head to CMU to give his speech to students, obviously the students were very mad, okay? So, counter-protests were already organized. But then, there's a couple clubs on campus that organized this Unity Fair. And the Unity Fair was basically a bunch of food trucks and club tables in the middle of the campus ground where anybody could, kind of come and pull through and, talk about, diversity and how good it is. It was basically like a peaceful counter-protest against the white supremacists speaking on the campus to come out and basically show that the student body disagreed with it. So the interesting part is actually about the president of the university, John Marshall. So John Marshall, gave the go-ahead for the white supremacists to speak at the campus today. He sent an email out to all the students basically saying that it was covered under free speech and they value free speech on the campus, et cetera, et cetera. They want to instill constitutional rights on the school grounds. And then he also funded and put some of his own money into the Unity Fair, which was a good thing. And I've heard a lot about this president, Mr. John Marshall. And honestly, the sentiment that I've heard from a lot of the students is that he's a good guy. He's a hard worker. He's a good guy. He does good for the students, etc. But I had some questions because obviously it's not an infringement upon one's free speech to tell a white supremacist that, they can't have a room in the university center where, the university's paying the bill to turn on the lights, giving him a mic, and platforming him. The question I had for the president was, well, would he stop some random 65-year-old guy from Alabama coming on campus slurring the black students? And I asked him that on the mic, and he said yes. He said he would stop that. And I was like, why? Why would you stop that? And, well, the answer is because that would generate material harm against the students based upon their race. And, then I asked Mr. John Marshall the follow-up question, well, didn't the white supremacist speaking do the same thing? Because I listened to his speech. I was one of the few people that actually got a ticket to go to his event. And he spent 45 minutes debating or arguing that racial segregation was good and white people are better than non-white people. And he was trying to convince everybody in the room that diversity was really bad. And his arguments surrounded, like in prisons, how gangs will be generated based upon their race and they'll fight each other, and how having a bunch of different people from different races is just very bad. I was even able to debate the white supremacists a little bit. But anyway, so, I ended up asking the president that, do you think it generates material harm for a white supremacist to be platformed and paid for by this university, the lights, the electricity, the microphone, the room in the university center, all of the private security, the cops, etc. And I asked him if that could generate material harm for his students, and he didn't have an answer, of course. But yeah, the funny part, the really funny part was after, I got done asking, Mr. John Marshall, the president, these hard questions, which I think needed to be asked. What I've seen is a lot of the people in the student body base have been really mad with me. And not just the conservatives, in the student body base. There's a lot of liberals too that are very upset with me for asking their president, Mr. John Marshall, questions that I believed were needed to be asked. So that's been a little bit of an interesting reaction from a lot of, even like the liberals at the school. And basically, like, what I've been figuring out, the reason why a lot of people are upset with me is because historically in the past, this John Marshall guy, this president, has been a really good guy that's done a lot of good for his students. And basically, like, I've come to the conclusion that at the end of the day, he placed, safety in his job, because it's likely that he could have been ousted by community members, as our county is so right-leaning, for telling a white supremacist that they couldn't speak at the school, over like student safety, over opting to not normalize and platform a white supremacist, giving them a mic to try to convince people that diversity is bad. And I thought that those questions need to be asked. And the funny part, the funny fucking part, let me tell you guys, is the president has an 18-year-old daughter, okay? And this 18-year-old daughter, which I don't want to share any identifying information about her, okay? Don't go looking for her. That's weird. It's antisocial. Just don't do it. Don't do it, you guys. Please, I swear to God, I'll be mad. You're not a fan of mine if you want to go look for, this young woman's information. But she ended up DMing me on Instagram, telling me that I need to be checked and that I'm out of line and that I was so disrespectful. And I think that she slipped up. I think that she slipped up when she was messaging me, because she told me that he was just trying to defend his job. Keep his job. So what that tells me was that, this is probably much more complex than I've seen it to be. Because basically, the sentiment that she told me was that if he didn't let the president, if John didn't let this white supremacist speak at the university, he would have lost his job, or it would have been in jeopardy in some sense or another. So what that tells me is that there's probably other people on the school board, or, I don't know how the president of the university is chosen. Maybe it's through a type of an election. He could be kind of outed, and, he could have his presidency status revoked by the rest of the school board or community members that are probably right-leaning and wanted the white supremacists to be able to speak. So he basically chose that over not normalizing and letting this white supremacist have a mic. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Really, really interesting. Yeah, and then, I even followed up with his daughter. I said, so are you telling me that if he didn't let the white supremacist speak, that other community members would have ousted him from his position? She hasn't responded. I don't think she will. I think she kind of realized that she slipped up a little bit. But anyways, so where we're at now is I've just kind of been combing through all of the arguments of who are like seemingly liberal CMU students that are really anti-Dean right now, really hate me for asking him those questions. What's up, Miller? And basically what I'm seeing is, apparently the university could lose funding if he were to infringe upon free speech and not let the white supremacist speak. I don't buy that argument. He told me he wouldn't let somebody come on campus and call students the N-word. Material harm against somebody because of their race. The same outcome as advocating for racial segregation. I don't know. Like, would the university lose funding if he got people off campus for saying the N-word? No. So that's not a good argument. That's not a good argument. And like, what are the other arguments that I've seen? I don't know. I saw a lot of people calling me an entitled bitch, that doesn't think he could get beat up because John Marshall, the president, did not want to answer my questions. So I low-key chased him down. I pressured him into it a little bit. And like one thing, okay, I'll admit my fault. I was definitely a little strong in getting this president, Mr. John Marshall, to talk to me. I'll admit it. Why was I a little strong to get this guy to talk to me? Because I was fucking pissed. I had just walked out of 45 minutes of listening to this white supremacist with a mic and a camera. He was also streaming on Rumble. Okay, Nick Fuentes clone. Tell me that black people are bad, Hispanic people are bad, Asian people are... Well, actually, no, he really likes Asian people. That anybody that doesn't have white skin is bad, and that diversity is bad, and that we need to bring back racial segregation. 45 minutes trying to convince people that he was right. I was so pissed that was allowed under any circumstances. So I hunt John Marshall down and I start asking him these questions. People didn't like it. But anyways, I got it all filmed. I was very lucky to have a friend that was willing to help me out, hold the camera, whole time. And yeah, I mean, we're gonna edit it down and try to get it out in a video. I'm really disappointed to see such a large portion of like the CMU student base, including a lot of people who I bet are left leaning. There's no way that there's a lot of people coming after me from the school. A lot of people. There's no way that they were all like MAGA or conservatives. I bet a lot of them were liberals because they're also talking about how good the Unity Fest was. I'm really disappointed in the student body base and a lot of the people that I've seen online, and like the takes that they've had. Like post-event, nobody's talking about the white supremacists anymore. Nobody's talking about the student-led club that hosted him anymore. Nobody's talking about the professors that have sponsored the club anymore. And nobody's definitely talking about the fact that the university's president pulled the biggest PR stunt of all time, said, "I love diversity, everybody get out there and celebrate peacefully in the Unity Party," but also saying, "I love my job, so I'm going to let this white supremacist have access to a microphone in a room in the university center with mics and 5 cameras and the press and everything. And I don't want to get flack from, community members." So I just pressed him on his reason that he kind of emailed to everybody about how important free speech is, which was also a blunder. And then everybody's just sticking up for this John Marshall guy. And because Dean came after John Marshall, therefore, talking about how evil Dean is takes more of a precedent than talking about the white supremacists or the club that platformed him or just the negligent actions of the president as a whole. Really disappointed in that. But it is what it is, is what it is. We'll see. But anyways, I know that I don't go live on Instagram a whole lot, so I appreciate the 800 of you guys for tuning in. You guys are pretty awesome. Am I gonna post the video on YouTube? Yeah. I'll probably do a YouTube video. I don't really know what direction I want to take it in. I don't know if I want to do something like journalistic. I don't know if I want to do something like just kind of like running through it. I don't know what angle I want to take on the video yet. So we'll figure that one out and then I'll get the video out. Yeah, sad to hear. Yeah, I know. It's like a pretty complex scenario though. So I do want to make sure like once I release this video that I'm being pretty objective about things. Like I want to make sure that, the facts are known. Like this university president, John Marshall, did disavow the statements of the white supremacists, did apparently take money out of his own pocket to fund the Unity Fair, Unity Party or whatever, while simultaneously conducting and making very negligent and wrong decisions, such as making a false argument that this guy should be able to speak at the university because of free speech, while obviously contradicting that in other senses, like he wanted to allow a 65-year-old from Wisconsin to come to the campus and slur their black students. So this is under that same umbrella of racially motivated hate that can lead to material harm. Very negligent and wrong. And then also just like an unwillingness to answer questions. I think that is going to be what I get out. We'll see when that video ends up going up. So confused? Yeah, no, it is. It is a very intricate situation with a lot of moving parts. A lot of moving parts to kind of what happened today. do a journalist type of way, that would be really interesting. I agree. Yeah, like journalistic, presenting the facts, you know, etc. I agree with that. Looks like you experienced the same way as Parker did with Charlie Kirk at UCLA. I mean, yeah, dude, I pressed this white supremacist. Now, I mean, okay, that was objectively fucking awesome, okay? That was cool. This guy got pressed. He was pissed, too, at me. So, he was arguing that, like, diversity was bad, and I didn't get the mic a whole lot against him, but he did do an open Q&A section at the end where I got it twice. My first argument against him was that, like, immigration is objectively good for the American economy. It absolutely places America first to support immigration of individuals from other countries to come in and here. And I gave him specifics, $1.7 trillion added to the GDP in the next 10 years by migrants. Very productive providers, incredibly good for the American economy. And then his response to that was, well, economics isn't all that matters. Money is not all that matters. So he was basically like, I hate non-white people so much that, I'll pay $1.7 trillion for, making sure everybody that's not white is not here. And then he went on to, like, argue the next time I had the mic that, it's because different races just don't get along and races are very tribalistic. And then he tried to argue because, like, we see prison gangs based on race that fight each other, that it must be true. So then I cooked him, and I was like, okay, listen to this. Well, undocumented migrants are 2 times less likely to commit violent crimes than natural-born U.S. citizens. In fact, I said 2 times more likely than you, Mr. Racist White Man. He's gagged. I think in response to that, he just said that it wasn't true. He said that I was lying. So then I gave the source. I was like, PNAS has been doing research on this since the 18th century. And then he took the mic from me. So... Yeah. We'll see what I got on the camera when this goes up. Yeah. Somebody in the chat just said white Europeans are originally from here, though. Brother, reread the message that you just sent. White Europeans are originally from not Europe? Great. Yeah, please, come on. Okay. Originally from North America. What an interesting theory you have. You must be Mormon. That's a Mormon argument. Did you guys know that Mormons think that, like, white people originate from America? And that they, like, were in cahoots with the, like, indigenous Americans, and they really, like, didn't like one another, so they, like, buried their golden tablets, or, like, yeah, and then, like, fled, or something like that. Did you know that, like, Mormons believe that? Isn't that crazy? So whoever said that in the chat, I have a feeling that you're Mormon. Should we call them European American now? Yeah. Crazy shit, man. Dude, yeah. What a crazy religion. Crazy religion. You grew up Mormon, can confirm? Yeah, like, I don't know. The Mormon church, in, like, modern American history, they've really tried to write out a lot of, like, the racism and obviously false beliefs from, like, their original doctrine. And I guess that's a good thing. Like, I'm okay with that. I think it's good. Like, good on them. Like, I obviously know the only reason they're doing that is because if they didn't, they just want to be accepted as a important religion at all. And they'd just be kind of, like, cast aside as a cult. But, you got to remember the invisible hand effect, although they're probably not doing that with good intentions. I mean, it does create good outcomes. I met, like, a bunch of Mormons that are like, I don't think that white people are superior to non-white people, even though the original, text of Joseph Smith's writings said so. Yeah. Was everybody at the speech protesters or followers of Jared Taylor? Great question. Protesters. Yeah, I was really surprised. There's, like, maybe 3 people there that actually supported Jared Taylor, and they all look so weird. Oh my God. I'm usually not one to talk about people's looks. Dude, these Nazis were weird fucking looking, man. I'm not gonna lie. These Nazis were really weird looking. Yeah, hopefully I got a couple on film. How many were there? Like 3. There's like 3 people that were, like, there seriously listening to him. Like the entirety of the Q&A section was like everybody in like this smaller audience that got tickets roasting the shit out of him. I'm not gonna lie, like there's actually some other people there that made better points than I did. Like for instance, there was this one guy in the back that was actually operating like this news camera that was like, well, how do you want to segregate the races in America? Do you like want to put like white people over there, Asian people over there, Hispanic individuals over here, black individuals over there? Like how'd it work? And then he was like, well, I'm in Colorado. Well, like I have to move because this would be like the Hispanic part of America and I'm white. And he was just like, he was gagging him. He was gagging him. The white supremacist had no clue what he wanted to say. Yeah. And I mean, there's like some other guy that made some pretty good points as well. So quick rundown of the actual conversation with the white supremacist. So yeah, real interesting. And then it was after that, I walked out of the event and, you know, there was like 2 news crews downstairs, hopped on both, and I was pissed. At that point, I knew that that John Marshall, the president of the university, was still out and about in the Unity Fair. I was pissed. I just wanted to go tell him, first of all, that this guy just tried to convince me and 40 other people that racial segregation was good for 45 minutes. And then I found him. I was pretty upset. So then I just started asking him some questions. And a lot of people are mad at me because I was loud. I wasn't yelling. I was just I had a very loud voice. And I don't think that people know that, you know, there was like a live crowd. There's like an audience of maybe like 40 people watching me talk to John Marshall. I had to project. Somebody in the chat says Maple Syrup 04 says, Dean, I go to CMU. You couldn't go without a student ID card. You are lying. I hate Jared Taylor and we don't need you exploiting us. Okay, so who is the guy that looks just like me that is on the camera in my other room talking to Jared Taylor? Did I send in a body dupe? Yeah? Oh, come on. I sent in a body dupe that goes to the school. Yeah. Come on. Be real. Somebody in the chat says that I'm lying and I'm exploiting. That is crazy. Come on. See, that right there. That is like how like a lot of like the libs at CMU that hate the white supremacists are acting right now, dude. They're acting like, I don't know, man. Dude, these people are pissed at me. And it sucks because CMU is like in my backyard. You know what I mean? Aubrey says, how did I end up getting a ticket? There was just a couple left over, and they didn't require like a MAV card, which is their student identification. They just required an ID. Yeah. We all saw the clips. You look 4'7". Swear to God, he's just 7 foot. Dude, everybody looks like a middle schooler next to John Marshall. Everybody looks like a middle schooler next to him. It's pretty funny. I reposted one of those clips on TikTok because I thought it was funny. They put a caption on it, and they said something about how my 4'7" ass getting snacks off the top shelf at midnight. I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious. How long did I get to talk to him after? If you're talking about John Marshall, the president, only 6 minutes. I mean, it felt like an hour, but I looked back at the recording. There's only 6 minutes. But yeah, no, you guys gotta oh my God, I wish I could show screenshots about what a lot of people at the campus are saying. There was a lot of people agreeing with the sentiment that I was acting like an entitled little bitch for asking the president the pressing questions. You know, really crazy. Really crazy. Fun fact. Yeah. Saw one too. I don't know, man. I've seen a lot of people say that. Oh no. I did. I addressed the allegations already. I promised that I'm not an entitled little bitch. I had questions. I was very mad, and the hard questions had to be asked. Yeah. But okay, all right, you guys. I'm going to go ahead and hop off for the night. I will, of course, be on TikTok tomorrow. I appreciate everybody for joining in on the Instagram live. I'm never live on here. So for everybody joining in, you guys are awesome. You know, as just like a last 30-second summary to kind of unpack everything I've already shared to be more concise and direct for all the new people that are in here. Basically, I went to university campus today where a white supremacist was speaking, went to the white supremacist's event. He tried to convince me and 40 other people that racial segregation was good for 45 minutes. The president allowed him to do it, even gave him a room in the university center with a mic, lights, and a podium to do so, with security and an organized ticketed event managed by the school. And then he argued that the only reason he did it was because of free speech. I disagree that not allowing a white supremacist to speak at the school is an infringement upon free speech. The questions I asked the president of the university immediately following the end of Jared Taylor, the white supremacist's event, was basically to prove that by asking him how he would feel if some random old guy from Alabama came to his campus and started calling his black students the N-word, which is promoting material harm against a person because of their race, just like advocating for racial segregation does. And apparently, it is not an infringement upon one's free speech to stop that man coming from Alabama calling his students the N-word, but it is an infringement upon one's free speech if you don't give them a room in your university center with a ticketed event, a camera, lights, a mic, etc. So I asked him to kind of explain that hypocrisy, and he couldn't. The fallout of this has been a lot of students at the school are very mad with me. I'm trying to determine why. I was pissed. I was asking the hard questions. I feel like they're important. But simultaneously, what I've heard about the president is that he's a good, hard-working guy that has done a lot for the students. And on top of that, like, he apparently paid money out of his own pocket for the Unity Party, which was a peaceful counter-protest to celebrate diversity. And he was there the whole time engaging with the students. And my conclusion is that he was just playing politics. His daughter DM'd me on Instagram and called me out of line and said that I need to be checked and that he was just trying to keep his job. Which tells me that if he didn't allow the white supremacist to speak, he would have probably gotten flack from other people in the school board or community members that could vote him out. So he played both sides by giving the white supremacists the platform to speak in the university center, while then also giving his students the platform to engage in a peaceful protest. So, you know, it's a bit like used car salesman to me, very snaky. But what really pissed me off wasn't just the snakiness, but then also arguing that the only reason that Jared Taylor was allowed to speak was because of free speech. But, all right, you guys, I'm going to go ahead and hop off. You know, just keep it in mind that sometimes the hard questions do need to be asked. You know, if you happen to be like one of the CMU students that isn't too happy with me, one thing I'll just very politely ask you to consider is that maybe my concerns are valid. Maybe my concerns do need to be addressed. And, you know, maybe if you were in my shoes and you were just as pissed as I was after listening to white supremacists argue that, you know, racial segregation was good for 45 minutes, that you'd want answers to your questions too. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hop off for the night. See you all tomorrow on TikTok, and appreciate you guys for joining the Instagram Live. This is a new thing. Have a good night, y'all.